I still remember the exact moment I decided to let karma do my dirty work. It was during one of those endless Sunday dinners at my mother-in-law Sandra's house, watching her destroy my daughter's confidence, one carefully crafted comment at a time. Really? Caitlin? Crying again? Sandra's voice dripped with disappointment. Look at your cousin Riker. He never gets emotional over little things like this. My daughter, only 9 at the time, tried to wipe away her tears while her cousin smirked from across the table. He'd just finished mocking her science fair project, a study on empathy in elementary school students. Real groundbreaking stuff for a 4th grader, if you ask me. I'm Bonnie, and I've spent 15 years watching my mother-in-law and sister-in-law Nancy shape their perfect little prince while treating my daughter like some kind of failed experiment in parenting. Bonnie, you're not doing her any favors by coddling her, Nancy chimed in, reaching over to pat Riker's hand. Children need to develop thick skin. That's why Riker's already winning debate competitions. I caught Henry's eye, my husband, their son, and brother, but he just stared down at his plate. 15 years of marriage, and he still couldn't stand up to Mommy, dearest. She's sensitive, I said quietly, and that's not a weakness. Sandra laughed that awful laugh of hers. Oh, sweetie, the world isn't kind to sensitive people. You're raising a weakling. I didn't argue. I didn't defend. I just squeezed Caitlin's hand under the table and whispered, We'll talk at home. Because sometimes the best revenge is letting people think they've won. That was 6 years ago. 6 years of watching Sandra and Nancy parade Riker's achievements around like Olympic medals while dismissing everything Caitlin accomplished. 6 years of constructive criticism and backhanded compliments. 6 years of waiting. Yesterday, Caitlin came home clutching a letter, her hands shaking with excitement. Mom! She burst through the door, her backpack falling to the floor. I'm a finalist. For what, honey? The Phoenix Horizon Youth Grant. She thrust the letter at me. Only 5 students in the city made it this far. It's a full college scholarship. I scanned the letter, my heart swelling. The Phoenix Grant was no joke. It was the most prestigious youth achievement award in our city. But before I could even finish reading, my phone buzzed. A text from Nancy. Did you hear the amazing news? Riker's a Phoenix finalist. Sandra's hosting a celebration dinner tonight. Bring Caitlin. She could learn something from watching a real achiever in action. I looked up at my daughter, still bouncing with excitement. Honey, it seems Riker's a finalist too. Her face fell for just a second before that quiet determination I love so much took over. Well, that makes sense. He's good at everything, right? That's what Grandma always says. I pulled her into a hug, remembering all those Sunday dinners, all those subtle jabs, all those times Sandra called my parenting into question. You know what, baby? Sometimes the universe has a way of balancing things out. What do you mean? I smiled, thinking about Sandra's face when she realized her precious grandson would be competing against the girl she'd dismissed for so long. Just that karma takes its time, but it always delivers. Mom, you're being weird again. I laughed and picked up her backpack. Let's hear about your project, the real one, not the watered-down version you'll have to present at Grandma's tonight. As Caitlin launched into an explanation of her peer mediation program, I couldn't help but think about Sandra's words from all those years ago. You're raising a weakling. Well, we'd see about that. Because sometimes the strongest people aren't the ones shouting their achievements from the rooftops. Sometimes they're the quiet ones, working behind the scenes, waiting for the right moment to shine. And that moment? It was finally here. I picked up my phone to reply to Nancy's text. "We'll be there. Wouldn't miss it for the world." Sandra's dining room looked like a shrine to Riker's achievements. Debate trophies lined the shelves, certificates covered the walls, and a fresh "Congratulations, finalist" banner hung above it all. I noticed there wasn't a second banner for Caitlin. "Look at all these awards," Sandra gushed to Principal Martinez, who'd been invited as a special guest. "Riker's been leading since he could walk. Remember when he organized that mentorship program for troubled students?" I bit my tongue. That program was one afternoon where Riker talked to 2 kids in detention because his mom made him. "And what about you, Caitlin?" Principal Martinez turned to my daughter, genuine interest in her eyes. "I'd love to hear about your project." Before Caitlin could answer, Nancy jumped in. "Oh, it's sweet, really. Some kind of feelings circle for kids who can't handle their emotions." She laughed, sharing a knowing look with Sandra. "Actually," Caitlin's voice was soft but steady, "it's a peer-led conflict resolution program. We've been piloting it at school since September." Principal Martinez's eyebrows shot up. "The one that reduced playground incidents by 40%. That's your project?" Sandra nearly choked on her wine. 40%? "Yes," Principal Martinez continued. "It's been remarkably successful. We're considering implementing it district-wide." I watched Sandra's face tighten. This wasn't part of her script. "Well," Nancy cut in, "Riker's debate team won state championships, 3 years running." "Mom," Caitlin tugged my sleeve after dinner while the adults were still mingling. "Can I show you something?" We slipped away to the guest room where she pulled out her laptop. "This is what we've really been working on." The screen filled with testimonials from students, teachers, even parents, kids talking about feeling heard for the first time. Teachers praising the dramatic drop in bullying reports, a mother tearfully describing how her son stopped skipping school after joining the meditation sessions. "Jasmine and I didn't just create a program," Caitlin explained, her eyes shining. "We built a community." I hugged her tight. "I am so proud of you, not just for what you did, but for how you did it. No fanfare, no bragging, just quiet, consistent work." "Caitlin!" Sandra's sharp voice made us both jump. "Stop hiding and come join the party. Riker's about to show everyone his debate medals." Back in the living room, I watched Sandra work the room like a politician. She'd cornered one of the scholarship judges, describing Riker's natural leadership qualities in excruciating detail. "He just has this way of taking charge," she bragged. "Unlike some children who need constant emotional support, Riker's independent." "Strong." The judge nodded politely, but I caught him glancing at Caitlin, who was quietly helping younger cousins resolve an argument over the last cookie. "Split it," she suggested, demonstrating with a clean break. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one." The kids beamed, sharing the treat without further drama. "Interesting approach," a deep voice commented. I turned to find Gregory Stout, the surprise guest judge, observing the scene. "Very effective." Sandra materialized instantly. "Oh, you should see my grandson's approach to conflict resolution. Riker, dear, Come show Mr. Stout your debate techniques. Riker swaggered over, launching into a rehearsed speech about assertiveness and dominance. I watched Gregory's expression shift from interest to something else entirely. "And what about you, young lady?" he asked Caitlin. "What's your philosophy on leadership?" "I don't really have one," she answered honestly. "I just think everyone deserves to be heard." Gregory smiled, jotting something in his notebook. Sandra's face went pale. Later that night, as we were leaving, I overheard Sandra hissing at Nancy. "This isn't going according to plan. That judge seemed far too interested in Caitlin's little feelings project." "Don't worry, Mom," Nancy assured her. "I've got something special planned for the next mixer. Those gift baskets I ordered. They'll remind everyone who the real leader is." I smiled to myself, thinking of all those genuine testimonials on Caitlin's laptop. Let them play their games. Real impact speaks louder than any gift basket. "Mom," Caitlin asked as we drove home, "do you think I have a chance?" "Honey," I replied, "I think you've already won something much bigger than any scholarship." Something wasn't adding up about Riker's perfect record. I'd spent years hearing about his achievements, but now that I was looking closer, the edges seemed frayed. "Did you see this?" I asked Henry, showing him Riker's debate team photo from last year. "He's listed as team captain." "Yeah, so I just spoke with Mrs. Peterson at the library. She keeps all the school yearbooks. Riker wasn't even on the team last year. He quit after 2 months." Henry frowned. "Maybe it's a mistake. Like the troubled youth mentorship program that was actually just one detention supervision, or the leadership award that doesn't exist in any school records." Before Henry could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Caitlin. "Mom," her voice was shaky, "can you pick me up early?" I found her sitting outside the school office, holding an ice pack to her cheek. My heart stopped. "What happened?" "Riker's friends happened," Principal Martinez answered, stepping out of her office. "They've been harassing Caitlin since the finalist announcements. Today it got physical. They knocked her into a locker." I started to rage, but Caitlin grabbed my hand. "Mom, wait. I want to handle this my way." "Your way?" "Let me show you." She led me to the library where Jasmine was setting up chairs in a circle. Within minutes, the room filled with students, including 2 of the girls who'd pushed her. "Welcome to today's meditation session," Caitlin began, her voice steady. "Today we're talking about why we hurt others when we're feeling hurt ourselves." I watched in amazement as my daughter led a discussion that had even the bullies opening up about their own insecurities. By the end, one of them was crying, apologizing to Caitlin. "You're not weak," the girl sniffled. "You're like the strongest person I know." Later that afternoon, I attended the scholarship fundraiser, where Nancy was making a show of delivering enormous gift baskets to each judge. "Just a small token of appreciation," she simpered, handing one to Gregory Stout. Riker selected each item personally. Gregory examined the basket's contents. How thoughtful. Though I'm curious, did he choose the imported French chocolates or the aged whiskey? Nancy's smile faltered. "Well, I helped a little." "Mrs. Santiago?" Gregory turned to me suddenly. "You look familiar." "We met briefly during my student teaching year at Roosevelt Elementary. You were doing a workshop on emotional intelligence in education." His eyes lit up. "Of course! You wrote that fascinating paper on trauma-informed teaching methods. Tell me, did you end up pursuing that approach? Before I could answer, Sandra appeared, practically shoving a gift basket into my arms. For you, Bonnie. Since Caitlin didn't think to prepare anything. Actually, I smiled. Caitlin's running her afternoon meditation session right now. She didn't want to miss it, even for the fundraiser. The kids count on her. Gregory's eyebrows rose. Every afternoon? 4 days a week. She started it after noticing younger students struggling with anxiety. It's completely voluntary, but they keep coming back. Fascinating. He made another note in that ever-present notebook. And entirely student-led. Unlike Riker's initiatives, Sandra cut in, which have proper adult supervision. Proper supervision! A new voice joined in. Like the debate team he captained last year? We turned to find Mrs. Peterson, the librarian, holding a stack of yearbooks. Sorry to interrupt, but Principal Martinez asked me to bring these for the judge's review. Shall we look at the debate team photos together? Sandra's face went white. Nancy grabbed her purse, muttering something about making a phone call. Actually, Gregory said, I'd love to see those, and perhaps afterward I could observe one of Caitlin's meditation sessions. I watched Sandra and Nancy huddled in the corner, frantically whispering. Their carefully constructed house of cards was starting to wobble. Mom, Caitlin texted later. The whole junior class wants to write testimonials for my project. Is that okay? I smiled, remembering Sandra's words about strength and leadership. Of course, honey. Let them speak their truth. Because sometimes the loudest statement is the one you don't have to make yourself. Sometimes you just need to create the space for others to tell their stories. And boy, did they have stories to tell. You're just like your father, Sandra spat at Henry during Sunday breakfast. Weak, spineless. Can't even defend your own nephew. I watched my husband shrink into his chair, just like he must have done as a child. The morning paper lay between them, specifically the school newsletter featuring Caitlin's meditation program on the front page. Mom, please, Henry whispered. Please what? Please stop pointing out how you're letting your sister's son get overshadowed by... She gestured dismissively at Caitlin, who was quietly buttering her toast. By someone who actually helps people? I suggested. Sandra's head snapped toward me. You've poisoned this family with your soft approach. Henry was never like this before you. Like what? I asked, keeping my voice level. Happy? Capable of expressing emotions? I raised him to be strong. No. Henry suddenly stood up, his coffee cup rattling. You raised me to be scared. The silence that followed was deafening. Excuse me? Sandra's voice dropped dangerously low. I said. Henry's voice shook but held firm. You raised me to be scared. Of disappointment. Of failure. Of you. Nancy burst through the door, interrupting the standoff. Mom, we have a problem. She thrust her phone at Sandra. On the screen was a social media post about Riker's community service essay, specifically how parts of it seemed suspiciously similar to a published article from 3 years ago. It's just a coincidence, Sandra dismissed, but her hand trembled as she handed back the phone. The school paper is investigating, Nancy hissed. They're comparing his other submissions too. Well, stop them. You're on the PTA, aren't you? Use your influence. I watched this exchange while reaching for Caitlin's hand under the table. She squeezed back, both of us thinking about the hours she'd spent writing and rewriting her project proposals, refusing help even when I offered. Mrs. Santiago? A voice called from the front door. It was Sarah, one of the students from Caitlin's program. Sorry to interrupt Sunday breakfast, but... But what, dear? I asked, noting her red eyes. My parents are getting divorced, she choked out. I didn't know where else to go. The meditation circle is the only place I can think straight anymore. Caitlin was already up, grabbing her jacket. Mom, can we... Go. I nodded. I'll bring snacks to the library later. As they left, Sandra scoffed. Running off to another crying session? Meanwhile, Riker is probably working on his defense for these ridiculous plagiarism accusations. Actually, Nancy checked her phone again. He's not answering my calls, and his Instagram story shows him at the mall with his friends. What? Sandra shrieked. Get him home now! We need to handle this situation. Handle it how, Mom? Henry asked quietly. The same way you handled it when I wanted to study art instead of business, by threatening to cut me off? I'd never heard this story before. Sandra's face turned purple. Everything I did was to make you stronger. No. Henry stood again, taller this time. Everything you did was to maintain control, and look what it got you. A son who could barely hug his own daughter until she taught him how in her meditation circle. Nancy's phone buzzed again. Her face went pale. Mom. The school paper is running the story tomorrow. They have proof. Multiple instances. Sandra sank into her chair, her carefully maintained facade cracking. This can't be happening. We had a plan. We had everything under control. Control, I mused, gathering my purse. Funny how that works, isn't it? The harder you grab it, the faster it slips away. Where are you going? Sandra demanded. To buy snacks for a group of teenagers who trust my daughter enough to share their deepest fears and hopes with her. You know, weak things like that. As I left, I heard Henry behind me. I'm coming too. I think I need to sit in on this session. Walking to the car, we passed the framed photo Sandra kept on her porch, Riker holding a trophy, Sandra and Nancy beaming beside him. The glass was cracked, just slightly, right through the center. Sometimes the universe has a poetry all its own. The school hallway echoed with Riker's shouts. This is bullshit! I worked hard for everything I have! I was dropping off Caitlin's forgotten lunch when I heard the commotion. Peering into the classroom, I saw Riker facing off against his English teacher, a crumpled newspaper in his fist. Gregory Stout stood in the corner, observing silently. Mr. Bailey, the teacher said calmly, the evidence is clear. 3 separate assignments contain significant portions copied from published works. My mom helped me with those. He froze, realizing what he'd admitted. That doesn't help your case. Down the hall, I heard the familiar sound of Caitlin's meditation circle starting. Even with the drama unfolding, she kept to her schedule. I noticed Gregory Stout slip away from the classroom and follow the sound. You don't understand! Riker was still yelling. I'm supposed to win that scholarship. Grandma Sandra said it's mine. Nobody is entitled to win anything, the teacher replied. Tell that to your precious Caitlin. Everyone's so impressed with her stupid feelings circle. She probably cheated, too. That's enough. Principal Martinez appeared in the doorway. My office, Now. I ducked into the library, following Gregory's path. Through the glass, I watched my daughter leading a session with twice the usual number of students. Sometimes, she was saying, we feel pressure to be perfect, to never fail, but that pressure can make us do things we're not proud of. Gregory scribbled in his notebook, nodding. My phone buzzed. Sandra, calling. I stepped into the hallway to answer. This is your fault, she hissed. You and your daughter somehow planned this. Planned what? Riker's plagiarism? He wouldn't have needed to if there wasn't so much pressure. With Caitlin suddenly being Little Miss Perfect. Stop, I cut her off. Just stop. For once in your life, take responsibility for what you've created. What I've created? I created success. I created strength. You created fear, and now it's falling apart. Listen here. Her voice turned deadly quiet. If you don't withdraw Caitlin from the competition, I'll make sure Henry loses his position at the family company. How's that for fear? I laughed. I actually laughed. What's so funny? You still think you have all the power, but Henry quit that job this morning. He's already accepted a position teaching art at the community college. The silence was delicious. What? Turns out sitting in on Caitlin's meditation sessions helped him find his voice. Ironic, isn't it? I hung up and returned to the library window. The session had ended, but Gregory was talking to Caitlin. Remarkable program you've built here, he said. How do you handle conflict when it arises? We face it, she replied simply. Running away or pretending everything's perfect just makes things worse. Gregory smiled. Wise words. I don't suppose you've seen your cousin today? He's having a hard time, she said diplomatically. Sometimes when people are hurting, they lash out. And how would you help someone like that? The same way we help everyone, by listening. Really listening. Not just waiting for our turn to speak. I watched Gregory write something that looked suspiciously like winner in his notebook. My phone buzzed again. Nancy, this time. Mom's threatening to disinherit all of us, she sobbed. She says we've ruined everything, that we're all weak, that we've betrayed her. Sounds familiar, I replied. How do you stay so calm? I learned from my daughter. You're welcome to join her sessions, you know. Everyone is. A pause. Maybe I will. Later that night, Henry found me in the kitchen. Sandra called, he said. She gave me an ultimatum. Either we pull Caitlin from the competition, or she'll cut us off completely. No inheritance, no family connections, nothing. I held my breath. And? He smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. I told her to go ahead. We don't need her kind of strength anymore. Through the window, I could see Caitlin in the backyard, teaching her dad some breathing exercises. The sun was setting, casting long shadows, but they didn't seem to notice the darkness. They were too busy finding their light. The Phoenix Horizon Gala sparkled with enough pretension to make Sandra feel right at home. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and enough wealthy donors to fund a small country's education system. Remember, Sandra was coaching Riker near the appetizer table, confidence is everything. The plagiarism scandal is just a minor setback. We've handled the press. I adjusted Caitlin's simple blue blazer, borrowed from Jasmine, who insisted it brought out her eyes. Ready, honey? She nodded, fidgeting with her note cards. What if I freeze? Then you'll unfreeze, just like you taught Sarah in meditation last week. The first warning bell chimed, signaling 10 minutes until presentations. Sandra swept past us, deliberately bumping my shoulder. Oh, I'm sorry. She smiled coldly. I didn't see you there. Rather like how the judges won't see Caitlin once Riker takes the stage. Good luck to Riker, Caitlin said sincerely. Sandra's smile faltered. Principal Martinez took the podium. Welcome to the 25th Annual Phoenix Horizon Youth Grant Ceremony. Before our finalists present, we have a special address from our guest judge, Gregory Stout. Sandra straightened in her chair, gift basket prominently displayed on her lap. Gregory approached the microphone, adjusting his glasses. In my 50 years of education, he began, I've learned that true leadership isn't about who speaks the loudest or claims the most achievements. It's about impact, real, measurable impact. Nancy's hand gripped Riker's shoulder. This year, we did something different, Gregory continued. Instead of just reviewing applications and interviews, we spent time in these young people's environments, watching, listening, learning who they really are when they think no one's looking. Sandra's face went pale. We visited schools, talked to classmates, observed their daily interactions. Because character, my friends, isn't built in front of an audience. It's revealed in quiet moments, small kindnesses, and yes, even in how we handle our failures. Riker shifted uncomfortably. Our first presenter tonight, Principal Martinez returned to the podium, is Riker Bailey. Riker approached the stage, index cards shaking slightly. His speech was polished, clearly rehearsed, all about leadership and excellence and achievement. But his voice wavered when he mentioned his community service projects, and he couldn't quite meet Gregory's eyes. Thank you, Riker, Principal Martinez said. And now, Caitlin Santiago? Caitlin stood, dropping her note cards. Instead of picking them up, she walked to the podium empty-handed. I was going to read you a speech about my meditation program, she started, about the statistics and success rates. But instead, I want to tell you about Sarah. Sandra scoffed audibly. Sarah came to our first session because she was angry. Her parents were divorcing, her grades were slipping, and she felt powerless. She sat in our circle and cried. And you know what happened? Nobody laughed. Nobody judged. 20 other students just listened. The room was silent. Sarah comes every day now, not because she's still angry, but because she helps other angry kids feel heard. That's what leadership means to me. Not winning or being the best, but creating spaces where people can be their true selves. I saw Gregory nodding, writing furiously. We can't control what happens to us, Caitlin continued, looking directly at Riker, but we can control how we respond. We can choose kindness over perfection, truth over appearance, real strength over fake power. Sandra stood abruptly, but Henry pulled her back down. My mom taught me that. Caitlin smiled at me. She taught me that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is just listen. So, that's what I did. I listened. And what I heard changed everything. The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. Sarah and her meditation group, seated in the back, were the loudest of all. Principal Martinez approached the podium again. Before we announce our decision, we have a statement from the board. This year's selection criteria were modified to heavily weight community impact and peer testimonials. We received over 200 letters about one of our candidates. Sandra clutched her gift basket like a shield. Additionally, Principal Martinez continued, in light of recent academic integrity concerns, one application has been withdrawn from consideration. Nancy grabbed her purse and stood. Riker followed, head down. "Wait!" Caitlin called out. "Stay, please!" But they were already walking out, Sandra trailing behind them, her gift basket abandoned under her chair. Gregory stepped up to the podium, holding a golden envelope. The room held its breath, and Karma prepared to take its final bow. "The recipient of this year's Phoenix Horizon Youth Grant." Gregory paused, his eyes scanning the room. "Is Caitlin Santiago." The explosion of cheers nearly knocked me back in my chair. Sarah and the meditation group leaped to their feet, screaming and hugging each other. Henry grabbed my hand, tears streaming down his face, but I couldn't take my eyes off Sandra, frozen in the doorway, one hand still on the handle. "Furthermore," Gregory continued once the noise settled, "the board has decided to implement Caitlin's peer meditation program across all district schools next year." Principal Martinez stepped forward. What truly set this application apart wasn't just the program's success, but the overwhelming community response. We received letters from students, teachers, parents, even the school custodian. Let me read just one. She unfolded a paper. "Before Caitlin's program, I was the kid everyone avoided, the angry one, the troublemaker. But she never labeled me. She just listened. Now I'm helping other kids like me, and for the first time I feel worth something. She didn't just create a program, she created hope." Sandra's hand dropped from the door. "Signed, Tommy Martinez." Principal Martinez looked up, smiling. "My own son." The second wave of applause was interrupted by Nancy's sharp voice from the doorway. "This is rigged. You're all just falling for her act." "Actually," Gregory spoke up, "we have video evidence of the program's impact. Would you like to see it?" The lights dimmed and the projection screen lowered. There was Caitlin, sitting in a circle with students, handling conflicts with grace and wisdom beyond her years. Scene after scene showed real moments, real changes, real impact. "But what about leadership?" Sandra's voice cracked. "What about strength?" "I'm glad you asked." Gregory smiled. "Roll the next clip, please." The screen showed Riker in class last week, his meltdown over the plagiarism accusations in full display. Then, immediately after, Caitlin's calm handling of a heated argument between two freshman students. "Leadership," Gregory said, "isn't about being the loudest or most aggressive. It's about inspiring others to be their best selves. And strength? Well, I think we've seen a masterclass in real strength tonight." Nancy grabbed Riker's arm. "We're leaving." "This is humiliating." "No," Riker pulled away, surprising everyone. "I want to stay." He walked up to Caitlin, hand extended. "Congratulations. You deserve this." The room held its breath. "Thank you." Caitlin smiled. "Would you like to join our circle sometime? Everyone's welcome." Sandra made a strangled sound and stormed out. Nancy hesitated, looking lost. "You too, Aunt Nancy," Caitlin added softly. "Mondays and Thursdays after school." Henry stood up. "I'll be there." "Every session." The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and photos. But the moment I'll never forget came later, in the parking lot. Sandra was sitting alone on a bench, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. "You raised a remarkable young woman," she said as we passed. I was wrong." Caitlin stopped. "Would you like a hug, Grandma?" Sandra broke down completely, pulling Caitlin close. "I'm so sorry. I've been so terrible to you." "It's okay," Caitlin soothed. "We all have pain we're carrying. That's why we need each other." Over Sandra's shoulder, Caitlin caught my eye and winked. My brilliant, compassionate, stronger-than-steel daughter had just taught her grandmother the most powerful lesson of all, that true victory isn't about defeating others, but lifting them up. Later that night, I found Henry in Caitlin's meditation room, sitting cross-legged on a cushion. "I've wasted so many years being afraid," he whispered. "Our daughter is braver than I ever was." "She got it from you," I said. "The courage was always there. It just needed the right moment to shine." My phone buzzed. A text from Nancy. "Is it really okay if I come Monday?" Then another from Sandra. "Can we talk tomorrow? About everything?" And finally, one from Riker. "Thank you for not giving up on us." I showed them to Caitlin, who was already planning the next day's session. "See?" She smiled. "Sometimes people just need a safe space to fall apart before they can put themselves back together." Out of the mouths of babes, as they say. Or in this case, out of the mouth of the strongest person I've ever known, my supposedly weak, oversensitive daughter, who just changed an entire family with nothing but kindness and grace. Karma, it turns out, has excellent taste in justice. The meditation room buzzed with nervous energy. Sandra sat stiffly on a cushion, hands clasped in her lap, while Nancy picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. Riker slouched against the wall, trying to look disinterested. "Welcome to our special family session," Caitlin began, her voice steady and warm. "Today we're talking about breaking cycles." "This feels ridiculous," Sandra muttered, but didn't leave. "Grandma," Caitlin said gently, "why don't you start? What cycles have you noticed in your life?" Sandra opened her mouth, probably to deflect, but then looked at Henry sitting across the circle, her son, finally free from her shadow, teaching art and smiling more than she'd ever seen. Her voice cracked. "I repeat what my mother did to me. The constant pressure, the criticism. I thought I was making you stronger, Henry, but I was just passing on my own pain." Nancy wiped her eyes. "And I did the same to Riker." "Mom," Riker spoke up, "I cheated because I couldn't handle the pressure. I thought if I wasn't perfect, you'd stop loving me." The room fell silent. Even the birds outside seemed to pause their singing. "Oh, baby!" Nancy moved to hug him. "I'm so sorry." "This is what healing looks like," Caitlin said softly. "It's messy and uncomfortable, but it's real." Sandra turned to me. "Bonnie, I owe you the biggest apology. You saw what really mattered all along. While I was forcing everyone into my idea of strength, you were building real strength in Caitlin." "Actually," I smiled, "Caitlin built that herself. I just gave her space to be who she is." A knock at the door interrupted us. Principal Martinez poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, but the governor's office called. They want Caitlin to speak at the state education conference about expanding the meditation program." Sandra straightened, probably ready to take over planning, but caught herself. That's wonderful, Caitlin. What do you need from us? Just this. Caitlin gestured to the circle. Family who's willing to grow together. Henry reached for Sandra's hand. Mom, remember when I used to draw all the time? Before you said it was a waste? Sandra nodded, tears falling. Well, my students now tell me art helps them process their emotions. One kid hadn't spoken all semester until we did self-portrait day. Sometimes the softest approaches have the strongest impact. Like my daughter taught me, I added. Real strength isn't about who can hurt others the most effectively. It's about who can heal others most completely. Riker cleared his throat. Could I maybe help with the program expansion? Not to take over or anything. Just to learn. Of course, Caitlin beamed. Everyone has something to teach, and everyone has something to learn. Sandra stood suddenly. We all tensed, expecting the old Sandra to emerge. Instead, she walked to the small altar where Caitlin kept inspiring quotes. The real measure of strength is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. She read. I've fallen so far, for so long. But today I'm choosing to rise differently. Nancy joined her. Me too, Mom. Me too. The sun broke through the clouds, streaming through the window and illuminating our circle of healing. In that moment, I saw what Caitlin had known all along, that true victory isn't in defeating those who hurt us, but in helping them find their way back to love. So, Caitlin pulled out her planning notebook. Who's ready to talk about expanding the program? I'm thinking we start with family meditation sessions in every school. Sandra raised her hand, then quickly lowered it, laughing at her own ingrained need to take charge. Sorry, old habits. What do you need from us, Caitlin? My daughter smiled that wise, gentle smile that had changed everything. Just bring your whole, authentic self, Grandma. That's where all real change begins. And in that moment, watching 4 generations of family trauma begin to unravel through the wisdom of a 15-year-old girl, I realized that karma hadn't just delivered justice, it had delivered healing. And that was the sweetest victory of all.